Welcome to the video. Today we're going to be talking about Ken Livingstone's legacy, and I think it trumps, I'm afraid to say, I think it trumps Sadiq Khan's legacy as mayor 10 times over. I think Ken Livingstone was one of the best mayors we've ever had, London has ever had, and let's forget about what happened after Ken Livingstone's mayoral tenure, but let's talk about what he did as mayor. Well, he introduced Boris bikes. I know they're called Boris bikes, but he actually had the idea for them. They should be called Ken bikes, realistically, but we know how unfair politics can be. It's just the way the game works. But he introduced such a good policy with that. What a great policy. And I'm going to call them Ken bikes because they are Ken bikes. He introduced great policies. One of the ones he did was, allowing a lot more opportunities for minorities in London. He opened up gateways for minorities in London. This was the same mayor who erected that Nelson Mandela statue we see in the South Bank. When you go to London, you see that South Bank statue. This is the mayor who did that. And actually, Ken was actually a mayor, a Labour mayor, who was a real Labour mayor, a real Labour Party politician, who actually made the idea of being a politician a good thing. Now, whenever we hear the word politician, we think, oh, I hate politicians, I don't like them, they're untrustworthy. But Ken Livingstone was actually a trustworthy politician. Believe it or not, he was someone who kind of made the idea of being a politician actually a profession and something that was relatively respected by the British public and the British people. He was an extremely popular mayor in London. He enacted these policies, that were popular. He introduced the Oyster card. He made transport in London far, far easier and better and faster. He was a great mayor. And he also showed the fact the Labour Party, yes, could be a socialist force, but at the same time, an extremely pragmatic force, a force for change, a change that would actually affect people's lives. We've seen a lot of this at the moment, with the idea of, does politicians enact actually change things? And when Ken was Mayor of London, he did. He changed things. He made life for Londoners better. And that was why he was one of the most popular mayors London has ever had. Fast forward to Sadiq Khan's tenureship, and I think it's very different. If Ken Livingstone was a mayor that was woke for all the right reasons, right, then Sadiq Khan was part of the new wave of woke politics we've seen at the moment, which is very different, I think. And I'm not going to go so... And then I told you before in the previous videos, I'm not kind of one of those people who's obsessed with woke, because I understand that the bigger issue is the liberal economic system we have in this country. It's neoliberalism, it's globalisation. That is the biggest threat we are seeing. And that is something Labour should be attacking, and Labour should be defending the works of this country against this kind of neoliberalism. But I do think that the woke we've seen in London at the moment is quite a big issue. And the reason why it's such a big issue is it is going to drive people to extremes. These policies are going to drive people to political extremes, unfortunately. And we saw that with Ulez. Ulez was such an unpopular policy. And it wasn't a policy, and I think Sadiq Khan knew this, it wasn't a policy that was supported by Londoners. And if you ask a regular Londoner, I think 9 times out of 10 they would say they don't like the policy, they don't like the Ulez policy. And that's why you saw videos of people smashing these cameras down, taking them down, because it was an extremely unpopular policy. And, call me a populist, okay? But I think that if you're Mayor of London, you should be enacting policies that are supported by the people of London, that have the support of the people of London, and they're going to benefit their lives for the better. That's what Ken Livingstone did. He introduced the Oyster cards. He made transport faster, easier, more accessible. He opened up gateways to minorities in London. He did all of these things to make Londoners feel like London was a special city for them. London was a city for these people. And now, when you go into London, you don't feel that way. You look at Ken Livingstone's tenureship, and I think that is something we should be drawing inspiration from in the Labour Party. That's what I think. When he was this young politician trying to do the best for his city, I think that is something we should be inspired by. And I think it's something that the Keir Starmer leadership really isn't at all, interested in pursuing having that type of leader at the helm. Instead, they would rather have leaders like Sadiq Khan and Keir Martha to represent them. I think that we should actually be looking at people like young Ken Livingstone, and other old Labour Party politicians from an older generation, and looking at them for inspiration rather than the new politicians we saw come up in the Tony Blair years. Because I believe the new politicians that came up during the Tony Blair years and afterwards are kind of the wrong calibre that Labour should be looking for. We should actually be looking for politicians and leaders who want to do their best for their cities, who in some ways are communitarian, but in others generally believe in community, come from a left-wing view even, but are still very pragmatic, right? Pragmatic, realistic, thinking about policies that are genuinely going to affect people. That's what we need.